In New Zealand history, the Britten bike is a story of vision. It is a story of sacrifice, courage and determination. It's a story of reaching the top of the game against overwhelming odds. It's a story of one man's dream. From his backyard workshop, John Britten designed and produced a custom motorcycle that many have described as a work of art, a bike that went on to conquer the racing world.
People overseas are just absolutely astounded that one man has made this bike.
John's unique design and production techniques put Kiwi ingenuity in the spotlight.
The entire bike is built by us, right down to the wheels.
It's incredibly ironic that really the most sophisticated, most technically advanced motorcycle in the world today is built in the South Island of New Zealand.
This iconic film follows John's unique journey from the bottom of the globe to the top of the world.
I think that has something to do with the Kiwi attitude of you can do anything, and you can do it in your backyard.
Follow the journey. Own a piece of the dream.
Brilliant. New Zealand Championship. First time New Zealand made bikes won a New Zealand Championship. Unreal.
Available for the first time on DVD. The highs and the lows. The story that is one man's dream.
Hello, and welcome to what I would class as a little different live stream from Zhead Motovlogs. This is a vlog or live stream that is different from anything that I've ever done. This one is solely about the Britten. If anyone doesn't know anything about the Britten, John Britten was an engineer from New Zealand who designed a V1000 bike, like you see in the picture behind me. That's John sitting next to his bike. This thing was revolutionary, absolutely revolutionary. There was not one thing on this bike that had been seen or has been seen since on any other motorbike. There have been companies like Benelli that have copied certain ideas from Britten and incorporated them into race bikes, but it's never ever transcended down into mainstream. This bike was a one-off. This bike was created in the mind of John Britten, and him and engineers from New Zealand created this one-off original, which was absolutely unbelievable. But before I go into showing you this video, I'm going to welcome on another guest to the stream.
How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, pal?
I'm good.
This is a subject that I've got pretty close to. I just absolutely love the story. I love the story of the Britten. I love the story of the bike, and all this history that surrounds it. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the story of the world's fastest Indian, whether you've watched that yourself.
I've not seen that, no.
So, the story of the world's fastest Indian, it was actually, what's his name? Oh, God. His brother was in Jurassic Park, the older guy. And he plays a guy, a New Zealander called Burt Munro. And Burt Munro took an Indian, and it's actually the reason you probably can't see it on that camera. I'll move it over. I've got like an Indian thing up there. I'll move that over, and you can see it. There's an Indian up there. It's a 1934 Indian, and that's Burt Munro basically took that bike and they tuned the engine and took it to the salt flats. And it basically set the world record for...
I've seen it. Yep. I have seen it. Yep.
I can't remember the guy's name, the actor.
Yeah.
The famous actor, I can't remember. I've just had a total senior moment in a brain fart. But anyway, But Burt Munro was an absolutely fantastic, phenomenal person. Total genius at what he did. Cast his own pistons and basically eked every single brake horsepower out that bike, and he firmly believed in what he was doing. And the funny correlation with what I'm about to show you just now and what Burt Munro did was the bike that was used in the filming of The World's Fastest Indian was actually built in John Britton's workshop. So it all ties together. It's all pretty nice. So I'm just going to start the video. Just to sort of this is just like a little intro into, and I think there's a wee bit of housekeeping with regards to safety in the auditorium and stuff like that. But just bear with.
Not getting any sound on it, or it's very low.
It's very low, right? Hold on,
Yeah.
that's good to know. That's how's that?
Yeah, it's better. Still quite low though. I feel like I'm hearing the audio coming from your PC.
All right, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, just give me a wee second to try and sort it out. Right, let me try and work out what's happening. Is it still quiet?
Yeah, just the same. Yeah, I can hear it, but I feel like it's, as I say, I feel like it's coming through your microphone as opposed to being through.
Right, okay. I'm wondering whether if I'm right. Let me try that.
It is just open for this event, and for the safety of our taonga, we have closed the rest of the museum. We do encourage you to wear your mask throughout and social distance as possible, just for everyone's sake.
Is that any different?
It's a wee bit. I can hear it a wee bit better. It is quite tinny, but that might just be the way that it is.
I think it was when I initially started watching it. As I say, it's quite a thing we copy on YouTube. I'm going to forward it on just to sort of get into it a wee bit.
Thank you, and welcome here tonight. I'm going to talk to you about the paint system and also a few things about this bike. But to start with, I'd like to honour one of our owners, Mr. Kevin Grant, who was a personal friend of ours and unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago. We're wearing his t-shirts tonight in honour of Jim. He was such a good owner, and he was the reason that you saw these bikes riding ridden around Pukekohe on the track. When this paint scheme was thought about and went by John went on holiday. John Britten went on holiday, and he bought this piece of this glass starfish to me, and he said, "I want the bike painted like this," and he said, "And I want pink guards and side pods," and I thought that the guy's gone mad. I worked on this colour first and then used the shocking pink colour that's down below there, and it didn't fit together. It just looked so wrong. But as you can see with this, it worked really well with the bodywork. And this reflection of this blue on the pink down there gave a violet tinge. And to make them work together, I finished the bike and then clear coated it with a violet pearl, not just the blue, but the pink. And this is the end result. It's quite a complicated scheme because the reflection of the pink on the blue gives this undercolour in here. So I painted all of the underneath and the edges and sort of airbrushed the edges around these pieces to give the look.
I'm going to just hold it there. Just look at the side of that bike and look at everything that's on it. Look at the exhaust, for example.
Yeah.
That exhaust doesn't belong in any other bike. That was the creation of one man's mind.
Yeah, it's really, really odd. Obviously, it's been designed in that way for maximum output or for induction or something.
Yep.
You know, there's a reason why. But you would think, see, when you look at it, you think, how did they come up with that design?
Yep. There's a question and answer further on that you'll see, and it actually talks exactly about the exhaust. But look, if you look at the shock that you see at the front of the bike, that actually controls the rear swing arm.
Right.
Again, that's something that.
Yeah, well, look, I actually thought that controlled the front because I couldn't see any like traditional forks on the front of the bike.
Yeah.
But that controls the back.
Yep, it's got like the shock. The shock for the front is up above what looks like the tank, but isn't the tank.
Right.
So that's the reason that pink came about, and that's the reason why. As Katie said, I worked with John on the very first one, which is Aerodynamics. It was a tubeless repair. That was the first one. Through to the last one, and many of them painted. Some of them 4 or 5 times because of accidents and crashes and so forth, but always brought them back to this sort of finish. One of the mechanics said to me one day, before I painted a bike, he said to me, "Look at this bolt," and he had a bolt that bolts the head down. And he says to me, "See this bolt?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "We've machined the edges away here to take weight off it, so that the bolt was wasted in the middle and the thread at the end and the cap screw on top." He said, "We've taken all this weight off the bike, and you're going to add weight by painting it."
I just find that absolutely amazing. The fact that an engineer is considering weight saving on a bolt, but also worried about a painter putting more weight back onto it with the weight of the paint. I've never ever considered paint adding weight to a bike.
Yeah, it's going to be so minimal, and then is it? I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's all about getting the bike as light as possible and not putting weight on, even if it's like grams, you know.
Yeah.
But and then you think to yourself, well, I suppose there's not going to be that much that you're going to gain by making it 2 grams lighter or 2
No.
grams heavier. But I think the way the engineer thinks is, well, if it's 2 grams heavier, we're going in the wrong direction. We
Yeah.
need to be going.
Well, if you think about it, if you're going camping, if you look at any camping website, they'll say to you, consider how much water you take, because 1 litre of water is 1 kilogram in weight. And what Bob actually said, and he discusses it later on, is that, yeah, one litre of paint is actually heavier than a kilogram because of the solids that's in it as well as the solvent. So it was actually slightly heavier than a kilogram per litre that they were actually spraying onto the bike, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And I said, okay, I'll do my best. When you think about it, it's correct because you get a litre of paint or whatever, it's quite heavy. Even though the solvent dries off it, it's adding weight. So I was always careful not to add too much. It was a fantastic one to work with. A real challenge. Master. That was a skills design, and he had a charisma about him, and working with him, you didn't want to burst his bubble, so you worked hard and did what he wanted. It was pretty tough because I worked a full-time job, I was self-employed, and then when I finished and had dinner, I went to work for John, and sometimes it was till 2:30 in the morning, and seeing what we see now, that was the drive.
Look at that seat. How
Yeah.
uncomfortable is that seat?
There's absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing to it. And what happens, like just in like a wee minute, is they start to deconstruct the front end of the bike, and you'll see how very little mass there is in the whole top end, and you'll actually see how small the bike is, which is harnessing a V1000 engine, which at Daytona was a Ducati and a Honda and a Yamaha killer because it absolutely smashed them.
Right. Yeah.
Just to brief rundown on the models history start. My first introduction to Britten was 1987. It was fiberglass worked to a fiberglass to be repaired in a garage out back. Since bike undercover, it had a big long droop nose. It was sent to the helicopters they had, and he said that's a New Zealand built bike that's being built with Zero Ducati now motor. And I thought, well, it'd be interesting to watch to see where this goes. So to run through the amount of bikes, some of you probably know some maybe a little bit together from start to finish. There were 14 bikes built. The first 2 Aero series bikes, Zero had 160.
Those bikes that he's talking about, you should actually look them up. If you Google the first sort of Britten bikes, it was so ugly, so unconventional, but very, very fast with regards to, because of the aerodynamics. That was John Britton's thing, was the aerodynamics. I mean, coming off the sort of nose cone right down to the front wheel, it had like a sloping sort of fairing. It was kind of a Tron bike, if you like.
Yeah.
But it was nothing had been seen like that.
You can see by looking at that, when you look at where the front mud guard
Yeah.
is, there's no space.
No, And there's a reason for that as well, because the airflow comes over the front of the mudguard, and gives the radiator actually sits under the back seat.
Right.
I think the bike maker that he's talking about in Invercargill, I think that's where Burt Munro stayed. I'm almost 100% sure that's where Burt Munro stayed, was in Invercargill in New Zealand.
Right.
So I mean, it's New Zealand certainly sort of amped up their sort of biking heritage with those two bikes being in their museum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you think about that, this is a bike that was built in a guy's garage by a group of very, very clever engineers that took on the Isle of Man. Now, you know, even the fact of when Guy Martin and John McGuinness just recently before COVID took on the Honda Fireblade that came out, that basically had a whole box full of false neutrals, that if ever a bike is going to fail, it fails at the Isle of Man. And they took this bike and they were confident that that was going to succeed. I'm just going to bring in somebody else into the stream. That's here's your vlogster, Mark. How you doing, pal?
How you doing?
All right,
Sorry
buddy.
I'm late.
No, it's quite all right, pal. We're just enjoying sort of this sort of spectacle of this bike, and we're sort of dropping in every now and then to have a little discussion of what's on show. So I'm just going to take off again.
this one, we ought to show you a lot of the ducting, the interesting facts of it. That's, as most people know, the rear suspension is at the front here. The front suspension is at an point here, which should be visible. But also the radiator is located under the seat, so you'll be able to get a look at the radiator. But also the ducts that feed that radiator, what appears to be fuel tank here, is actually quite here. Failure feed, when you pull that apart, you'll be able to see that coming through. And there's ducting too, so the induction airbox is fed through the front of the fairing, and the left and right, the two intakes that force feed the radiator and exit out underneath the rear motor here.
So look, when I was watching the actual the story, basically this is how I found out about John Britten. When I watched the original story, his whole philosophy for doing what he did, and he put the radiator under the back seat, was that the radiator sitting at the front of the bike, he basically said it was like pushing a barn door. That was his whole philosophy with it, is pushing a barn door, so the wind resistance made the bike slower. So that's why the front mudguard was shaped the way it was, so that diverts air up into what looks like the tank, but when he takes it off, as I say, you'll see ducts through the tank which are diverting air down by the side of the seat and down into the radiator. It's unbelievable. And what he also realised was that in most bikes, when they're going at high speed, the back end of the bike gets pushed down with the air pressure, and he realised that if he pushed the air through the tank and down through a radiator into the space between the tail and the back seat, it actually held the bike up. So, I mean, some of the sort of ideas and sort of philosophies that he was playing around with were sort of revolutionary.
Yeah.
I wish my bike was as easy to take apart as this.
Yeah. Look at this.
Aye, that's it. So if you look at the fairing when they take it off, look at the ducting.
Yeah.
It's actually incorporated to the inside.
Oh, I can see the bottom's probably providing the radiator and the top's providing
Induction.
the airbox.
Yep,
Aye.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's quite clever.
Yeah.
We're going to see a radiator under the seat, aren't we?
Yes.
You know, racing's no my thing, but I don't have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this.
I don't see anywhere to put your panniers though.
No, that is the issue. That definitely is an issue.
What I have seen is, as I clicked on, was I could see the spring at the front where the radiator's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I take it that's the back or rear suspension.
Yes, that is. And it works the opposite from the way you think it should.
But the only thing I know about this bike is it's set the fastest speed at 188 miles an hour. In Daytona or somewhere, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Aye. That's the only thing I know. Oh, it spits the water out at the back and the overflow.
It's like a catch tank. Yeah, so if there's any excess that comes out, it spits out at the back.
Yeah.
That's mental.
So like the likes of that rear fairing, the front fairing that they've just lifted off, that was all constructed in his shed. And if memory serves me correct, there was 14 bikes manufactured, and he used the one reel of carbon fibre filament to manufacture every single carbon fibre component. It must have been a bloody big reel to start off with, but it was all sort of single strand or multi-strand fibres, and it was all sort of laid in a sort of skeletal structure. They actually talk about that a wee bit later on.
So they built that. They built that using layers with resin.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it was like a skeletal structure. Some of the rear swing arm, the rear subframe, the front forks are actually carbon fibre as well. And they actually said that the skeletal structure of all those components would have been strong enough to basically withstand any sort of use that they could throw at it, but nobody would want to ride it because it looked so fragile. So that's why they created the lamination over the side of it. But the likes of the tank and everything else was all using the carbon fibre sort of strand technique, which
So
not a lot.
He molded it, sanded it down, done another layer, molded it, got the shape, and then
created. He actually created molds. Created the original molds. He actually built a whole bike using a wire welding technique. So he did like a whole wire frame of the sort of shape of the fairings that he wanted to build, and then from that created the shape, sanded it all down, and got it to where he wanted, and then created molds that he could make replicas of. So sort of because his whole idea initially was to create a race bike, then subsequently sell it onto the public. But sadly, he didn't live long enough to sort of realise that.
Right.
So you can even look at all those little bits of foam that's around that the duct there, just at the end. You can see that they're just DIY jobs, aren't they?
Absolutely. I think quite a lot of what was done was on the hoof. I want you to pay particular attention to what they actually used for the front and rear axles. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you listen to that. So you were right, Mark. It's on the rider sitting on it.
Aye. It's clever using the fairing to feed the airbox and the radiator.
Yeah.
As well. That's clever.
So if you look at where the headstock is,
aye,
the headstock actually is part of the front suspension. So there's a linkage. You'll see the linkage just below the headstock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a spring popping out, the yellow spring at the top. That's the front shot.
Did I hear him saying that they plugged a laptop into that thing in the fairing?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They could actually program the ECU, and they could actually sort of decrease horsepower. They had a controllable ECU, and at that time, they could plug it in. And you look at the type. I think what is that, like a 5 or 6 DIN plug or something like that they were using.
Windows 95.
Definitely.
Jesus.
The wider loom's still better than my ZX9.
Mad.
So that's like a solid fork, because I can see another spring.
The fork is solid. The fork does not move in any way or shape or form.
It's just like a monoshock. It's sitting just below the headstock. Isn't it?
Yeah,
I
so
can see
basically the
it,
monoshock pivots just behind the headstock. That's where the front end gets its suspension travel from. Like I say, it was like nothing that was on the road at the time, and the Japanese were fascinated with it when they went to Daytona.
Steering damper as well. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird place for that.
I'm just going to push it on a wee bit because there's a wee bit of sort of microphone moving. Because obviously this was filmed as a live stream, that's probably why the audio is not 100% on it. But if you just if you just look at the bike, it's just absolutely stunning. Can you imagine, like, you've never seen a bike like that before on a track, and you see that, and as like a competitor being Honda, Ducati, Yamaha, you would think to yourself, I have nothing to fear from this. But what it did on the track was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll put it back a wee bit because this is actually quite funny. He's talking about the paintwork on the exhaust. I can totally relate to that because when I had the ZZR 600, I waited until my wife went to bed and I spray painted the calipers in the dining room. So I had grey and black paint absolutely everywhere in the dining room, and then I just denied all knowledge of it when she got up in the morning.
What's
she
that
knows.
smell?
She knows now.
German fucking, what's the blue intestine bits? Exhaust or coolant?
Aye. It's quite an interesting bit here, Lockwood, that you actually mentioned yourself about the power that exhaust creates. So it comes up just about now.
Yeah, through the induction of it.
Yeah. So I was saying about the axles as well. So this is quite interesting. I just cannot believe this when I listen to this. So you think about MotoGP bikes and you think of a research and development unit within a MotoGP company that does R&D on front and rear axles and strength tests and so on and so forth. And they've just grabbed scaffolding tubes because they've felt that they were fit for purpose and they've put them onto the bike. They've ran the bikes. At race, they've been race stressed and not one failure. I think that's remarkable.
Yeah, it definitely is.
You said there was 14 bikes, said. Are the 14 still?
10, I think.
10.
I think there's 10 still sort of surviving in sort of the full state as it was. One is actually owned by the Britten family itself. There's, I can't remember how many in America. It was said just a wee bit earlier on. I think it was maybe 6, and the rest are within New Zealand collectors. But one of the sort of main points about the whole thing is every single person that owns a Britten is more than happy to ship it anywhere in the world and put it onto a track and run it and let people see it. And that's the whole thing. It's like there's kind of a sort of, is it a cult? I wouldn't even say it's a cult. It's just like they all share the same passion for the bike, and every one of them's a sort of willing owner of the bike, and they keep them maintained, and they keep showing them and keep pushing the Britten name out there, and I think it's fantastic. German Jobby's just actually made a very valid point. I don't even know, can I put that up? I probably can. If I had the right, wait a wee minute, I can, because I can check the comments here and I can show it right now. I can put that up here. Britten would be working for Tesla today if he was still around. Now, a little bit later on in what we're going to see, he actually had built and designed an electric car that could carry 3 passengers. There was also something else, I can't for the life of me think what it was, that he had also built and designed that he was going to be pushing, but obviously his failing health sort of prevented him from carrying on his ideas. And he built and designed his own house, and his house is an absolute architectural masterpiece as well. If you ever had the inclination to go on and look at it, it's amazing. So this is what I was talking about, Lockwood. This is what he's getting into just now, is the fact that the strength of the swing arm, the subframe and the forks would have been strong enough with just the skeleton that he was talking about when he was winding it round, but
Yeah.
they decided against it.
Yeah. Oh, I just realised the swing arm's the same.
Yeah, there was pretty much every single component. They actually made you can look at the carbon fibre on the wheels. They made the wheels as well. So I mean, it was a ground up bike. He did absolutely everything, and he made every single mould in house for building the carbon fibre. As he said about the aluminium inserts and that, so there was a jig that was built that the inserts sat on that gave them all their geometric positions before they actually started to do the carbon fibre winds that actually held them all together and then solidified them in their place. It was, it excites me. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched something today with a video with this, but what was it? I'm just going to go and look while I'm listening. Was it MCN? Got to ride the bike?
Oh, yeah.
I think I watched that about 3 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's like I'd seen the film about it was on Duke, the Duke that manufacture all the sort of Isle of Man TT videos. They've actually got the rights for the John Britten story, it's called. And I actually I can't even remember what I did with the DVD. I had it, and I can't remember where it is. And I was just absolutely mesmerised with it. And then, as you do, you fall down the rabbit hole and you jump onto YouTube. And it was just at the height of Guy Martin, like doing all these sort of Isle of Man stuff, and then like he was doing his Wall of Death and so on and so forth. And they gave Guy Martin a Britten to ride, and he just come off it, and he just couldn't believe how good that bike was. As unconventional, and it is unconventional. There's no getting away from the fact that the whole front end, the fact that you've not got a fork that compresses in itself, with springs and oil, and I just can't get that into my head how that works. But obviously, I can understand and appreciate the fact that it works on a pivot, but the fact that how it works and how it works so well, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what the sort of average RPM of a V-twin would be. I couldn't even begin to think. I wouldn't imagine it would be high. I would imagine a V-twin would be similar to the sort of difference between petrol and diesel. It would be slightly lower RPM but higher torque.
I'm trying to think with the. I'm trying to think. I've had a couple of V-twins in the past.
It's not
My
around about
SV1,
10,000 or something.
it's
No?
roughly about 10. Yeah, I think it is
Aye.
about 10. Yeah,
So
10
12 and a
or so.
half, 12 and a half for a race bike's that's pushing the envelope.
Mhm.
German jobbies are just saying there 9-10 red
Yeah.
line. So
Yeah.
12 and a half's unbelievable. As you hear in a wee minute, all the sort of existing or surviving bikes have all been throttled back. The rev limiters have been set lower, obviously to protect the engines because they're not having to thrash them as hard. They don't have to run as hard in an angry of life because they're not in a race situation anymore. And
Mhm.
parts are getting quite few and
Sparse.
far between. Yeah,
Aye.
although they do say that they can still make them and they can repair anything that breaks, which is still nice.
Well, I hope Bob's transferring this information down the line.
I definitely think just the way that John Britten was as a person, and I think the way that the family are, that there will be like some sort of training college. There'll be a legacy, a John Britten legacy of some sort for innovation and so on and so forth. So I think the type of the intellect, I mean, definitely like all the engineering drawings are all saved and stored. They're all digitally stored as well. It's not as if it's handwritten or
Mhm.
like a draftsman sat. So they have they could build a Britain tomorrow. And one of the things that they say is they'll never do it. And the reason being was every one of the people the 10 people who own one of the Britons just now, they promised them that they wouldn't build any more because as soon as they build an 11th Briton, the
Mhm.
other 10 become less valuable. And that
Right.
wouldn't be fair on the people who have spent so much of their time, money, and effort. Because I mean, bearing in mind, you've got people in California that are willing to ship a Britain to New Zealand at the drop of a hat to allow people to see it ride round a racetrack.
Mhm.
Just shows that they can own it themselves, and
Yeah.
they're very, very loyal to the people who have invested a lot of money into these bikes and keep them safe for like future generations to enjoy. I think it's
Yeah.
remarkable. If you ever get the chance, go on to YouTube and Google the Britain at Daytona and just watch the race between the Britain and Ducati, and you will be absolutely blown away by how powerful the Britain is. Now, the first year that the Britain went to Daytona, during the practice, it actually cracked a cylinder, and they took it to a training college, and overnight they stripped the cylinder and they hand brazed it because they didn't have a massive amount of spare parts or a massive amount of sort of support. They weren't a Ducati garage that had like 5 engines sitting in a trailer. They had one engine and a small amount of spare parts. So what happened was the cylinder cracked and it was allowing water to come through into the head, which was dropping the power. So they repaired that overnight, built it back up until it was able to basically do a flying lap, and then they raced it, and it raced, and it was better and faster than the Ducatis. And the only thing that stopped it from beating the Ducatis was, I think, it was a regulator rectifier. And
Right.
it was the only component of the bike that they didn't manufacture. They bought it off the shelf, and it failed on them. It was the only thing
Alright.
that failed. Even the cracked cylinder survived the race, which I thought was remarkable.
The way you're talking tonight, Zed, I don't think you need the video.
I've watched it once or twice. This
Yeah.
one and the other one. The actual story itself, which goes into a wee bit of John Britton's history as well. And as I say, he was a fascinating guy, and I think he was one of these guys that just his sheer drive and enthusiasm pulled people along with him. There was people that were working like 20-hour days in some aspects to get the bike ready for Daytona, and they weren't taking any money for it. They were doing it out of the sheer
Right.
passion and just to see, let's see what we can achieve. And that was pretty much along the lines of Burt Munro. That was his mentality as well. I mean, he went to the Daytona Bike Week to do the salt flats, to do the measured distance with very little money at all, and basically he didn't even have a license. He didn't. He wasn't even meant to be there. He didn't have an invite, and he just blagged his way into it. To the people who actually fell in love with him, they had a whip round and gave him enough money that he could actually buy food and put fuel in the bike and whatever. So it seems to be that kind of Kiwi mentality, which appeals to me.
I forgot to say, I was listening to you before. I was trying to set everything up. Was it Richard Attenborough you were looking for the name?
Yeah.
Aye.
It was. I had a total brain fart.
Just when you mentioned Jurassic Park, I'm like,
Yeah.
Richard Attenborough.
Richard Attenborough or Jeff Goldblum. That was the other one.
Aye. Sam Elliott was another.
That's the two biggies.
Sam Elliott. O'Neill.
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill. That's
Richard Attenborough actually stayed in Rothsay. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, they had a house in Rothsay.
Oh, I wish I could tailor this better because it's really low. You're really having to try and make it out. I know it's no your fault, Zed.
I don't know how it's I can obviously hear it perfect, but I don't know how it's transitioning over StreamYard. I've got the YouTube clip absolutely up to maximum volume, and it's so unfortunate.
It's you're having to concentrate on it, but that's cool. That's fine. That's what I'm saying. But you could have just put the picture up and started talking us through it.
That's
know
it.
What I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need this video. Aye, that's it. You've kind of got it nailed. So.
I know, but it's nice to have, like, these guys are sort of they're working on it. I mean, Bob painted every single Britain that was ever produced, crashed or otherwise, and Craig worked on them, spannered on them, and knows them inside out. I'm just a fanboy.
Aye, there's German said they can't hear it over the internet. Grey Wolf. No. Don't worry, Zed, you're filling in the gaps.
Aye, that's it. I'm trying to look at the settings. There's nothing on the settings that seems off.
There really isn't anything else I can think it can be done.
So basically, what they're saying is like they sold each of the bikes for $100,000. So
100,000.
yeah. So the 10 bikes only made the company $1 million. Now the thing about it was never about the money, and the $100,000 when it came in gave them enough money to pay staff and materials to actually go and start building the next bike and the next bike and the next bike, and that's how they worked, and that's how they pushed on. As I say, they did have ideas about bringing out I think it was a V600, which John, I think they had a running engine, tested, proven, but sadly he didn't live long enough to actually realise that either. And that was one of the other unfinished projects, as it were.
How far are you into see if you the video that you're watching, Zed, how far are you into it? What's the time there?
That's about 36 minutes in.
Right, I'm going to try and do something here. 36 minutes in. I'm just looking at, just from the video you're looking at. 36 minutes in. Right, pause that. Share. Can I get away with sharing video file? No, it's not that. Share screen. Share screen. And we want the window. Oh, Chrome tab. Try this, see if it works. You want to try and share that, mate? And then press play?
If you can you enlarge it? Just like a thing on the...
That's at full screen.
Oh, right, okay.
So, hit play. Nah.
It'll be you that needs to play it.
Oh dear, right, cool.
And then you're muted as well on your.
You're muted on that, so it might create a feedback.
Oh, right.
Do it anyway. Try it.
Unmute, mute, and no, I think that's it. Can you? Does it come through to you to share? It's sitting there.
I've got it. I've got it on the full screen layout. I can't
see on the studio. Does it give you a separate file that's wanting to share with you down the bottom?
It just says Mark Ayrshire Vlogster, and it's got the file basically that you've given me. I went on to full screen layout.
And it's not fixed any audio? No.
No, well, it's not. It's not even playing.
All right.
Can you play it from your side? Is it playing on?
No, it sits in the studio. It just sits off screen.
Right.
I've got 3 options: edit name, stop screen, remove from stream.
Right. But have you got it? Did you share that to the screen from YouTube?
Yeah.
So can you go onto YouTube and play it then? Because obviously...
Oh, wait. Right, that's it playing.
And then unmute it.
Right, 206. Do I need to mute myself?
I don't think you will.
Nah, it's unmuted. Nah, it's not working.
Unmuted. No.
Nah, it's unmuted now. It says my options to mute it. It's probably something. It's because I'm not familiar with this now.
So, do you sharing the video or sharing your screen?
I'm sharing the screen.
Right. Can you share the video? Oh, no, you can't really, can you? Because it's just a web page, isn't it? So you're not. Yeah, I don't know whether
I
you
would
can
have to.
share. Yeah, don't know if you can share the web page.
Nah, I only get 3 options: to remove it, to edit, and to stop it.
Yeah.
Try it now, Zed. I'm sitting off studio.
That's it. That's it on.
Still no sound.
No.
That's mental.
And that's
Oh, wait there, mate. Try that.
right. Hold on a wee minute to remove that.
Are you just getting feedback?
The only carbon fibre failure we had.
Oh, I can hear that.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
That's a lot better. That's a lot better.
What about this?
Several reasons, but that was the only failure we had. And the
No, that's fine.
Right.
Did a wheel stand drop the front
That's
end on
what
the
I could
train
hear
and
from mine,
that
so I don't know
shear
what it is that's
broke his
stopping
collarbone,
it
but
from
we've never had any
coming through to you guys.
wheel failures.
Are you getting feedback for me? No.
No, not at all.
No. Right. Brilliant.
He still won the New Zealand Superbike Championships anyway.
First, second, and third.
So the accolades that the
name's
bike
Steve.
got was
I
absolutely
don't have a
phenomenal.
question about the Britten,
If you look at the
but I
sort
just
of
wanted to
racing
make a
pedigree of
comment
the bike, it was
about the men.
absolutely unbelievable. With the fact that it raced and completed the Isle of Man TT. The fact that it won so many New Zealand championships, it went back to the Daytona multiple times, was very, very successful. In fact, one of the people who raced at Daytona was one of the first people to actually approach John Britten and ask him for John Britten to manufacture a bike for him to run. I think it became the first of the F version, or was it F? Our race, our factory F version, which they classed as the factory version. It was him that owned it. So he paid for the bike, and he also sponsored them as well, which was remarkable.
Just shout play and pause when you want it, Zed. So
Play.
People who have owned the Britten and worked on the Britten and are now in later years
I'm going to go get a refill.
supporting the youth of motorcycle racing in New Zealand. Yeah. So Kevin Grant and Bob Robbins and Bob Brookland have been supporting Cormac Buchanan in his quest to get into the World Championships of motorcycle racing. Yeah. And this weekend he's racing in the Junior World Championship for the first time. So I'd like to thank you, Bob, for your efforts and that of Kevin and Bob Robbins. Thanks very much.
No problem.
How's it going? Just wondering, is that, as it is, able to be started? Is that a running bike?
It's always a question, isn't it? Can you fire it off?
We've got no gas tonight.
Don't even think about it.
Yeah, definitely. It was when it was sold to Te Papa, it was freshened up and it came here as a runner. And but it's been here for 20 odd years. We've done some fluid checks and bits and pieces on it. There's no oil in it, but it's got brake fluid in it. We've changed that, and it's got everything that it would make it go, but it would need to be checked out through sitting for so long.
I would love to know financially how much it would cost to get it back to running condition.
Yeah, yeah.
Because obviously they probably have to bore scope the whole thing. They probably actually have to strip the engine and do sort of fracture tests and so on and so forth with it to make sure that it just wouldn't blow apart.
It's a beautiful bike, it really
it's
is.
It's not like us. We are
a
bike that's not started for 20 years. We do everything we can just to get it running.
Aye, pretty much turn the key and close your eyes.
Oh,
Never got any better horsepower out of it, no matter what we tried. They did change this boombox to a different system later, but
that was them talking about the exhaust.
We even tried 2-into-1 rather than what we've got here in the later two bikes, but it was, you couldn't beat it. They take a lot of time. It's 40 hours work to make an exhaust pipe. So
40 hours
John
for
made
that
the
blue
first
exhaust.
few with some
Man
help
hours.
from
Mental.
other people
Yeah.
who
And they got
you
it
know,
right first time, that's what he's
a
saying.
good
It's like
brain,
on
you know, as far as
the
exhaust and design. So yeah,
on the dyno that it couldn't
it
produce
wasn't
any
just
more
John,
power than what it was
like you
delivering.
read in a book in his garage. It was a lot of very clever people, a lot of clever mechanics, a lot of, you know, Murray Aitken, who was a doctor and you know, and skills in engineering and so forth. It's Rob Selby, all the mechanics. You know, I could stand here now and name them all, but it would be unfair. But they were all very skilled people who put a lot of input into this bike. So we used to sit around the table in the smoko room. Not so much me putting in my 10 cents worth, because my work was minimal, so to speak. Although, you know, I was repairing them all hours of the night for the race meeting the next day and things like that. But the design side of it was a combination of lots of clever people talking about it, including John. And he had the ultimate decision in the end of which way to go, but the skills that we had available to us and the people were phenomenal and made some really great friends from it. So it's been a great ride, so to speak.
Those people also, you know, they were the ones that evolved it, didn't they, from bike to bike, and no two are really the same. And it's interesting, you know, the last two, number 9 and number 10, were such sort of artistic looking bikes, especially with the bodywork off, the carbon fibre work and around the airbox area and stuff. It just, as well as suspension and design, you know, everything just went forward, didn't it, with a lot of people's input. Yeah.
You know, when you go to a race meeting and a bike has a blow up or something, drops a valve or something, or, you know, just breaks down and you think it's all over. You've got a mechanic on the staff, or 3 mechanics sometimes in the same event, because we were running 3 bikes, and you would feed them and then go home and or go to the motel and have a sleep and come back in the morning and they were all pristine again.
This is an example of what I was talking about with the cracked cylinder.
Yeah.
Any issue that happened to a bike on track, it's like they all took it that personally, that there was the potential of a failure, that they all just went over and above. It's like John Britten wasn't standing over them cracking a whip. He wasn't like one of those guys. He was so laid back, it was ridiculous. He probably looks like a school teacher if you look at any of the documentaries about him. So he's not like one of those people that is like, you must. It's just these people believed in the project that much that they wanted to do everything that they could to get the bikes back and running and competing. It was remarkable.
I'm guessing that was play.
Yeah, it was
like, see, every time I go and take a drink, that's play, right?
As well for their work in this project. It was endless, you know, the amount of hours was, but it was fun. Don't get me wrong, we had some fun. And when a bike sold, John loved to party. And he took everyone to the one of the top spots in Christchurch and bought jugs of margaritas and started dancing. So, you know, we had fun, but we built something special. And I want to honour all the guys that worked on it because they're fabulous people.
So when Steve Roberts built his carbon fibre chassis about a decade earlier, he used a composite of carbon fibre and Kevlar. Is this just straight carbon fibre in this bike, or is there anything else in that cobweb? The other thing is, while I've got the microphone, can you please point out the uniqueness of the B on the wheels to the crowd?
Yes, well, the Bob designed that, and it's here. So the B, I don't know if the camera can get it.
The B is the same as the Britten signature, as you see here on the tank, with a little bit of extra in the bottom, and it ends up looking like a Kiwi. So that's
Zoom
what.
in on the back wheel, please.
Sorry?
Zoom in on the back wheel, please.
So you can actually see the randomness of the carbon fibre here. You can look at the weave on the sort of near the sort of neck of the wheel, and you can see the sort of overlay between the different sort of carbon strands and the. So it was. I think I would be unjust in saying that it was rough, but it wasn't factory. If that's the correct.
No, totally. You can see it's totally man-made from the floor up.
It's a visceral thing. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like you can see all its little flaws and imperfections, but all the flaws and imperfections make it perfect. And that's the beauty of it.
Play.
Using that bee to turn it into a kiwi.
We've got one down front
here. Not a question over here, not a question, but a story both you guys would appreciate. The Norton Owners Club and a number of us saved up money and brought over Peter Williams, who you will know was a works writer and designer and developer for Norton, kept the old-fashioned Commando competitive and had cast wheels and a monocoque frame in 1973. And to do 150 miles an hour on the 750 Commando. Anyway, Peter came over and he was at Wellington Airport, and Nez of Classic Cycles picked him up in his GM truck, and we brought him into the Museum Hotel, which is just over the road. So Peter and Norman White, who was his mechanic, were there. We said, go and freshen up and come down. It was a Thursday night. So Thursday night, I took them across the road to here. We went in at the bottom, and there was the Streamliner advertising the world's fastest Indian. You know, it was the mock-up one and all the stuff for the film and things. And, of course, Peter and Norman didn't have a clue about it. When they got back to Auckland and saw the to England and saw the movie, they'd soon find out about it. And then I said, come up above. And they used to have a cafe, and you had the Britten suspended. And, of course, both Peter and Norman knew all about the Britten, and they were over it like a rash. And this is from one amazing designer paying tribute to another Kiwi designer.
You know that way where you're in maybe possibly like a bike museum, or you're at a bike rally or something like that, and you see a historical bike. Like for me, it's the Ducati 916, which I would say was Massimo Tamburini's sort of best iteration. The 916 for me is just the most beautiful Ducati that's ever been made. And when you look at it, you go over every single finite detail of it. It becomes like one of those things where you just obsess about it. And like what they're describing there, it's like obviously they're bike designers themselves. They love a totally different. It's a Norton Commander they're talking about. It's a different genre of bike, but the appreciation from them to actually that bike there, they probably know the amount of work and man hours that's went into the manufacture of that bike, and obviously they probably didn't know a lot about it and a lot about its history, but I'm sure when they left they knew everything about it.
Yeah. Addition to that story was that the running Indian used in the movie was actually built at Britten Motorcycles, wasn't it? Yeah. Surprised a few people. There were 4 bikes altogether, weren't there? There were 2 Ducati powered ones, one that wasn't powered at all, and then the one that had the Indian engine was conceived and built in Carlisle Street, the workshop that this thing came out of.
Yeah, once again, and it's honouring another guy, is the late Norman Hayes, who loaned it to the factory to build the ones for the movie. He's a good friend of mine, and he loaned it as long as I would take care of it, and keep an eye on it. So, yeah, it would never get out of the workshop, and at E. Hayes now, it's there forever. They couldn't. I tried to borrow it for another project, and Neville Hayes, Norman's son, said it can't leave here. We've just got so many bus loads of people come to have a look at it. So he said, I'd disappoint too many people. And it's sort of a little bit like here, you know, taking it off display.
I think Burt Munro's record still stands. I'm not 100% sure on it, but I'm pretty convinced it hasn't been broken since he set it. I think when he originally set it in he went back over a number of years after that and broke it, and he pushed the bar high enough that nobody's got close to it again. Which it shows you how quick the bike actually went over the measured distance.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw the mouse going down there, but one of the interesting things as well was he had a stability issue, and I don't know if you're aware of Guy Martin's trying straight liners on the Hayabusa. I follow a guy called Ricky Elder, and he's got a channel called RE Performance, and he deals with Lamborghinis, Audi R8s, and Audi S4s, S5s, 6s. It's all high performance cars, and he is also rides superbikes as well. I think he does the Superstock, British Superstock. A couple of years ago he injured himself, so he's slowly but surely getting back into it. It's a BMW S1000RR that he's got. So he had Guy Martin in his shop, and that's actually how I got to know about Ricky Elder. And Guy Martin was talking about trying to gain that extra horsepower on his bike. And he said that one of the factors that he never considered was that once you get up to the type of speeds that he's doing, the aerodynamic effects of the bike cause instability, which actually cause you to think about counterintuitive things like adding weight to the bike to create stability. And not only adding the weight to the bike, but whereabouts you put it within the bike. So he's at the point where he knows the bike has the power to do the speed that he wants, but it's not got the stability. So he's moving weight about his bike until he can get it into a position that he can do these speeds. And Burt Munro had a similar issue. It was maybe elaborated a wee bit in the movie, but he had instability at a high speed where he actually raised his head out of the pod, and the drag of his head being over the top of the screen actually stabilised the bike enough that he could push on and break the records. It's all interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Disappoint them. And John was very much like that as a person. If somebody asked a question at a race meeting, he'd just take time to answer it, and he was really good with children, talking to them about it. And yeah, he didn't put anyone off.
Yeah, I may have misheard you, but did you say early on that they never managed to get any more power or output out of the engine? I wasn't clear whether that was between the Ducatis and the Britten Special, but could you tell us just a bit more about that and about the Britten engine itself?
It was the precursor, really. We got the really good power out of that, but because it had the oil coolers and radiators on the outside at the front, it was like pushing a barn door. When you get up to speed, it needed this sort of aerodynamics to get the speeds that we wanted. This will do 300 plus Ks. So, but with the one prior to this, it couldn't get there. So he had to think about this aerodynamic design to make it slick and feed the air into this area where normally pulls a bike down, and succeeded just in 1 year in change of development. So that the design prior to this bike, the Cardinal bike, that's 1 year of working in the Britten workshop for the team to produce a brand new bike that just blew the world away. Like as far
So
as
there's a lot of
design,
manufacturers
all
that
things
will
being
take
done.
5 years from like look at Aprilia. See when Aprilia come back into MotoGP. Mark, I know you don't sort of follow sort of motor racing as such, but one of the sort of legislations that MotoGP allowed was they allowed sort of what they call satellite teams to have a slightly more powerful engine, which made it a wee bit more competitive. But what that did was that allowed the company to have a little foot into the championship and allowed them to develop their bike. And as their development went on, the power they were allowed less and less power until they were actually sort of reined back into what the sort of factory teams were allowed. So if you think about the first iteration of that bike that Britten have come away with, and he's automatically realised that because he was using the first ever bike, the one that I was telling you about, Lockwood, that had the Ducati engine in it with the radiator at the front, and he realised that was causing a massive issue with aerodynamics, that he had to do a total redesign, which was why the radiator now sits under the seat. It's why the suspension is the way it is. It's why the induction goes in through what looks like a tank, but it isn't, because it's got the airways all sort of attached to it. He actually had a mock-up of a motorbike rider, which was basically a set of leathers, a set of boots, all stuck together, stuffed with newspaper that he used to actually lift in his workshop and onto the bike, and then he would look at it and he would look at the way that the rider position was, and he could envisage how the air flowed over the bike. And that's 1 year from what he had to what he came up with in 1 year to be competitive with factory teams.
Yeah.
That just absolutely
That's-
boggles
yeah,
boggles
it's
my
mental.
mind.
It's mental. You look at Suzuki as well. When they came back into MotoGP, it took them a good few years just to get up there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I mean, you know yourself, Robert. It's like the amount of data that they have to gather, and sometimes maybe gathering too much data can maybe sort of distract you. If you understand that, it's like maybe sometimes like a lot of MotoGP teams where they seem as if they're a mile off the pace. It's because they're possibly going the wrong way with the settings for a particular track, or they're not happy
Yeah.
at listening to rider feedback or whatever it is. But they basically, God, 1 year. What a turnaround in 1 year. It's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Design motorcycles. You got anything to add to that?
No, I think that's about it.
Did that answer your question?
Well, I was really wanting a bit sort of an insight into what's special about the engine. There's been a lot of V-twins designed over the last 100 years, but what was...
Well, there's nothing really special. I mean, being honest, there's nothing really special. It's just a lot of really good design put together in one package. Seriously, it is.
Gentlemen, thanks for your time coming out tonight and sharing your experiences with us, and to Papa for putting on the free event. Really appreciate it. Saw I think it was grand design of John's daughter renovating their lovely home 12 months or so, and at the start of the presentation you talked about the 10 bikes. There was a bike in the hallway there in the grand designs filming. What number was that, and where's that bike now?
That was the Cardinal. So that was the first one. And we actually bought that up. It was living in Invercargill, down on loan to Mecca, and we bought that up especially for the filming. And it was just in the house for about 3 days and then back out and down south. A lot of people actually, I think, went to that B&B wanting to see it. They thought it lived there.
It actually belongs to the Britten family. So.
Yeah.
Interesting, thank you.
It used to, the history on that bike was that when John built it, a businessman in Christchurch called Gil Simpson owned a software company called Jade, and he advanced him, I think, $50,000, wasn't it?
I'm not sure I do now, but yes, he bought half of the bike.
And purchased half the bike. So that bike was shared between Jade and Britten Motorcycle Company for years and years and years. And then they restructured Jade and decided that they'd sell their half. So the family purchased that half back again, and they now own 100% of that bike. It's back in their hands, yeah.
So it's good that the family actually own
bikes they own.
They own one of their own bikes. That's an amazing sort of legacy. It would be nice. It would be nice in some sort of way if they could possibly maybe get the whole collection back together again at one point. I know it wouldn't be practical. It will never happen because they'll never be able to have the money to do that, because as soon as they started, maybe everyone knows that they've got one. If they started to get a second, then the third would become more expensive. The fourth would be ridiculous, and then the fifth would cost the universe, kind of thing. So I know it wouldn't happen, but wouldn't it be nice if they could all be displayed all in the one?
Much of the bike's worth?
Well, I mean, I think you would be probably looking at £1 million, I would say, for one of them just now.
Right.
That's my guesstimation at it, just for the rarity and the sort of lineage of it. I would have to Google it, to be quite honest, to see. But I wouldn't say it was much off that.
Yeah, can't be far away from that.
No. Oh well, that's a lottery win for you, Zed.
Been more by Euro millions, I think.
you need somebody to sell you one though.
I know
that's exactly it. It's like I was actually speaking to my son about it, and I said, the only way that I would be able to own that bike is, one, if I was to find somebody that was willing to sell it, and two, I would have to have it written into the agreement that if I was purchasing the bike, I would donate it back to the family, and as long as I had use of it whenever I wanted. Well, that was obviously never going to happen, but I think that's the only way, because obviously they would heavily vet who it was that was purchasing one of the bikes, because they want to make sure that somebody isn't going to strip it and sell it for parts and so on and so forth, and it's going to carry on, and not just rot and rust away, which I think would be sacrilege in sort of any sort of sense.
Yeah,
definitely.
Both Aero to Zero is owned by Bob Robbins now, and he's loaned that down to Mecca. The Aero to One is owned by the family. The two precursors are owned by the family, and the Cardinal 1100 is owned by the family. So that's what they have here. Any more questions?
Cool. No, we do. How are you two doing? Do you need a water break, or are you all right?
Oh, you're all right.
You're all right? Okay. I think we've got another one down the front here. The gentleman in the beanie.
Do you know anything about the fate of the Britten casting patterns? I heard that they got damaged in the earthquake. Is that true?
They got damaged, yeah.
A lot again?
Yes, no. They were too badly damaged in the earthquake. They went into storage in the state insurance building in the basement, and unfortunately in the earthquake the basement filled up with water, and the patterns and a lot of the tooling and so forth was underwater for 2.5 years or thereabouts. And the patterns were made out of custom wood, laminated custom wood. So you know what a bench in your kitchen goes like if you've got laminated custom wood. So they didn't survive, but
some were better than others, weren't they? They were sort of split, but other ones blew apart. One set, one of the most important ones was the what we'd call the buck or the plug for this bodywork here, and that was what John started out and built the aluminium wire bodywork, and then used body filler and foam. That was also in the same basement and got submerged, and the foam took on water and blew it apart a wee bit. So we've got most of it, some of the main fairing area is broken into 3 or 4 bits. The tank is missing bits, and the tail piece is big splits, but you can make out what it is, and you can still see wire and stuff there. So it's sort of in a safe place at the moment. A lot of that stuff is all stored in a big container in Christchurch and has been for years, and some of it was pulled out to do some work on and refurbish. A lot of parts went into the Britten stables on display because people going to stay there wanted to see it. So we had crankcases and good bodywork and stuff like that for people. But the main plug, we hope to get tidied up, cleaned up a little better, and it'll hopefully end up at Motorcycle Mecca on display down there for people to see.
Are there proper drawings of all the engine parts?
Yes, there are. They were. Yes, they did. And they were all computer drawn and everything by one of the draftsmen that worked there in the last few years of Britten motorcycles, and they're all safe.
Are there any spare castings?
Some. But not enough to. It's out of the question. You hear people saying there's enough around to make another bike. That will never happen. And not as long as I'm alive, because you've got to honour the owners who bought these bikes. You know, every owner bought the bikes on the pretense it was only ever going to be 10. So in my mind, you could not break that promise.
We've got one in the middle here at the front. Would you mind just passing the mic along? Thank you.
We can make parts and repair bikes for owners, so their bikes still keep going, but we won't be making another one as far as I'm concerned.
That's actually an interesting segue into the question I was going to ask, which is what are the parts that are most commonly required by owners to keep them running and racing?
Valves, pistons, conrods, cam belts, all of that sort of stuff, and which are readily available because the people that made those for us will still make them. Yeah.
It's a whole network. That's the whole thing. It's like it's a whole network of people. Not only the people who worked on the bikes, like Bob that painted them, Craig that worked on them, building and repairing them. You've got all the suppliers as well that are more than willing to still supply any sort of ancillaries, be it belts, be it pistons, valves, whatever it is that they require. They're all invested in it. That's the whole thing. It's like when a load of people get invested in a specific thing, it can push the world around, if you know what I mean.
Aye. Definitely. And the fact they're promising to make them, and the fact that he's promised never to make another bike.
That was it, and they're so
faith that they'll not do it.
Yep, they're so thingy with that. They're so stringent with that, and you can hear just how definite he was when he said that as long as he's living, absolutely not will another bike be built. Because
definitely, yeah, you've got to protect the owners that bought them, and if you're buying one and you know there's only ever going to be 10, and then all of a sudden you build another 50.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you know, for example, the Ferrari F40 that came out, and every single Ferrari F40 that was built had a tally plate on it that had a specific number that was related to your car. And if they're turning around and saying there's only ever going to be 500 of these cars built, and then you come across a 501st car, then you're not going to be happy with that, considering the investment that you've put into that and the fact that you have got that exclusivity. And that's and again, that just shows the integrity of the whole sort of organisation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Complex design in this motorcycle, and it's obviously was refined throughout the production cycle through to number 10 bike. Is there anything on there that you'd identify that's become mainstream?
Well, you look at the modern design of motorcycles, and they all work in this system now, where there's a space under here and similar shape, similar aerodynamics. So it has had an effect on the manufacturers. They've seen this and studied it, and there's benefits in this design. Would you?
Yeah, well, I know that, the radiator we talked about this with someone earlier tonight, the radiator was used by Benelli, and they put a radiator in the back of their bike with a bike about 10, 15 years ago. But we think because of the lack of coolant and that, manufacturers these days still need to have big surface area, run fans, and have a good coolant supply there in order to tolerate, urban use and hot temperatures and things. Yeah. It was interesting with design influence when you talk about that, back in around 2012, 13, I think it was, when Ducati designed the Panigale, the 1199 came out, and I read an article written by Motorcycle News in England, and one of their inspirations was a picture of a Britten on their wall. So, they were looking at it while they were penning the Panigale. How much of it found its way into the Panigale, I'm not sure. But,
So that's an interesting fact. The 1090 Ducati garage, like the engineers are sitting there with a blank bit of paper about to pen what the Panigale is, which is an absolute masterpiece in its own right, and they've got a picture of the Britten on the wall as inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe not that because it's the perfect bike. I think maybe the message is that it shows you the possibilities. Because not anything that's on that bike was ever thought of before, and would even possibly work together. So it shows that reach out for the ridiculous, reach out for ideas that you may think are out with your sort of grasp, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Which from the point we were cavemen and we were looking over the hill going, oh, I wonder what's over there, and then you walk over the hill and you see what's over there, and so on and so forth. We've done that from the minute we set foot on Earth, so it's just one of these wee creative things from mankind, which I like.
Oh, yep, so we've got one at the front here and then I think one at the back there, so I'll let you go first.
Okay, a couple of technical questions about the engine. Integral cylinder head or detachable?
Integral, in the sense that cast?
One-piece castings with the cylinders.
No, they come off, they're separate.
That did happen with the single though.
Yes, it did.
With the 600 single, it was 5 valve and it was a cylinder head, cylinder arrangement. But these are separate heads, yeah.
Okay, and the valves themselves, are these, is there anything special about the valves? Sorry, the valve actuation, I mean.
It's just standard bucket with shim and titanium valves, but they were quite, how would you put it? They did get a hard time. Their life was quite short. One rider said to me one day, 60 laps, and he could feel it starting to go off colour because it would suffer valve recession. But they were very fine sort of seats and valve faces on them. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I'll clarify. Desmodromic or spring closed?
Not Desmo. No. It's just overhead cam. Yeah, straight onto bucket. And it is spring closed here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, guys, for coming out and showing us yet again. It's wonderful. More question with John. I believe he started out on an old Indian, and I just wondered what his personal progression through bikes was. What was in between a 28 Scout and one of these beasts?
Well, the Indian was when he was, 15? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
14, so that was early days. Yeah.
Oops, forgot to make it full screen.
Yeah, Tiger 100. What else did he
coming up to the end?
There's a
school day. That's all right.
Which he ended up selling to go and get an airfare to fly to, I think it was New York, to bring his Kirstine home and marry her. So that was dedication, selling your bike. Go and get your wife. He was a hard driving rider. I mean, he was awesome to watch. He was all knees and arms, and his Triumph that he raced, I followed him quite a bit and was ahead of him now and again, but not very often. But the bike was so flexy, you would see it go around the corner and it would do this, you know, and the back wheel would be sort of all crossed up, and it was flexing like mad, but he just had the ability, good riding skills, but he hurt himself a couple of times. And, you know, one time there when he was riding one of the Aerodynamics one, I think it was.
Yeah, one. Yeah.
He fell off and ground his little toe off. He got stuck under the bike. And I visited him in the hospital when he was in there, and he said, "Oh, I've created a demon. It's taken the toe." So, you know, he had a great sense of humour, and he was a fun guy to watch and to be around. So
the original dream was to have a faster bike for himself, or to actually make a production motorcycle?
Well, no, his dream was to build a New Zealand-built motorcycle as a world beater, really, and to create a design company which went outside that in the future. But unfortunately, he was taken too soon. God knows where it'd be now if he was here. Mind boggles, but that was the plan, was to create a design facility. And he did design work for Fisher and Paykel for different things. And yeah, there was a lot of design work that went through there that people don't know about.
I think with John too, what happened there was he got bitten by the racing bug. So when he was with the old Indian, it was being creative and restoring. He restored an old truck as well. You would have once seen that he built into a house truck and then parked it up. But when I first come across him was 1985, and I went out to Ruapuna Raceway in Christchurch, and it was just like an open day type thing. And these guys had this BMW K100 out there. And they first came out in 84, and they were quite a space age and modern looking thing. And, you know, they were very expensive. And here's this K100 that was 12 months old with a primed tank, which was unheard of. And these guys were thrashing it around Ruapuna. And I took several photos of it, and it was John that was riding it with a good friend of his, Lindsay Williamson. And I think, yeah, he got bitten by the bug, and it went from there, you know, from riding fast bikes to just building something special, wasn't it, Bob?
Yeah, he's one of the original people that started the Bears Motorcycle Club as well. John was part of that group. So he had a passion for racing, and of course it extended to doing this sort of stuff.
Great Prime Minister. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we have
Good
time for a
statement.
couple more questions. If there's any.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for coming here and putting on display this for this. Can you tell us about the riders? I know Andrew Shroud was one of the great riders. About the other guys, there's a few different riders. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
They must have had a bit of fun with taking that bike to major competition. You know.
They're all good riders. I mean, we were blessed. I mean, this bike is, you know, very, very powerful, and it takes a lot of skill to ride it, especially at, you know, the top end when you're riding it at that top end. I've had a ride on it myself, and it's scary. And these guys that were racing it out there, like I said before, you know, this thing's trying to jump out of there and you know, clean you up, because on the dyno you'd think, I'm never going to go near that. But you know, these guys were skilled riders.
Would you give it a go?
Jason McEwen, and, Chris Haldane, and
would you give it a go?
In first gear, maybe.
Right. Now, see when I say would you give it a go? My impression of giving it a go would be I would need to get myself up to some sort of track level that I would be worthy to actually sit on the bike. Like I don't know what kind of ACU license I would need, some sort of advanced sort of track riding license. I would want to get myself to a certain level, and then I could say, you know what, yeah, give me a shot of that. But I think it would be something to work to.
I'll tell you, I would love a shot at it, but they say, they always say there's that whole saying that you can only go as fast as you can twist the throttle.
Yeah.
Right. And you're right to a point, but I remember getting a shot at my mate's ZZR 1100, and you twist the throttle fast, it goes fast, but you sit there at a leisurely pace up to about 70, 80 mile an hour, and it turns in, when you get past 80 mile an hour, it turns into a fucking animal. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like you're racing along towards a bend, say, and you're doing 80 mile an hour, and you think, this is fine. Then all of a sudden, you're like, holy shit, it just seems to catapult you. It's like somebody's forwarded your brain on 2 seconds, and that bend comes up so much quicker than you were expecting it to, because the bike just seems to catapult. That's the thing you've got to watch. See when you're that experienced on a fast bike, or the characteristics of a fast bike. It seems tame until the revs get above a certain limit, and then it just turns into a fucking screamer. It's.
I mean, that's why I wouldn't even contemplate it until I had sort of massive amounts of track experience. I'm talking about, I don't know how many hours on the track I would even consider before I would even look at putting a foot over that thing. Because if I was going to put my foot over it, I would want to see exactly what it could do, but in a safe and comfortable environment. I wouldn't want to be inexperienced in any way and be put anywhere near that, because that's not a recipe for a happy outcome. No, I would want to be fully prepared for it in every aspect.
You've got to be, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of bikes can go fast, but they can go fast, but predictably fast.
Yeah.
When you know how fast, there's no surprises. But then you get the bikes that when they hit a certain limit, and the power band kicks in, and you just it takes you by total surprise. That's what you've got to watch.
Did you ever watch 44 Teeth when they did the Dream Garage? And
No.
it was I can't remember what the guy does, but he owns like 3 MotoGP bikes from different eras. And 44 Teeth went to visit. And every one of his bikes, he has now got to become roadworthy, because I'm not sure if you're aware that when MotoGP factory bikes are sold, a lot of the ECUs are locked off. And the reason is the technology and the information that's on it, they don't want anyone else to get. So it's protected by them before they sell it. So when you buy one of those bikes, you have to do a lot of research to actually unlock the characteristics of these bikes and the ECUs, even to get them idle, let alone on a track. So if you go on and you watch 44 Teeth's Dream Garage, you'll see and you'll listen to sort of what this guy has done, and what you said, Robert, with regards to riding these bikes. That's what he said. He said it's like in some aspects they're very, very easy to ride, but they put you into situations a lot quicker than you can think. So and that's where it changes.
Yep.
That's
you
where
run
the
out of
mistakes are
talent.
made. Aye, they call it running out of talent. It's not,
Yeah.
you just make a mistake. Aye.
No, that's just it.
You
You
don't
just can't
perceive
think.
what's happening.
You can't
Aye.
think fast enough, and it's the
I get around a
1400.
corner at 30 mile an hour, I'm out of talent.
But the 1400's like that as well. That's one of the reasons why this season I've not really enjoyed riding it, because I've not really been in the frame of mind to ride it, in the sense of being 100% focused. And that's a bike that if you're not focused, you're not riding it, and that's just the way it is. Because it'll put you into more problems than it gets you out of. So it becomes less enjoyable.
You want me to continue? Yes?
Yeah, please do.
Alright, no bother. Once I press play, I'll be back in a couple of minutes, okay?
All right,
so
buddy.
You're going to have to stick with it.
Andrew Stroud.
I'll do the same. I'll do the same.
Sean Harris.
I'm empty.
I mean, it just goes on. Stephen Briggs, all fantastic guys in their own right as well. Lovely people, great riders, give you good feedback on what needs to be done, because they all vary a little bit in what they like in the bike. But one guy that I must say, Jason McEwen, he'd ride a donkey fast. He didn't care what the setup was. He just wanted to race it, you know, and he was good. But we've just had some lovely guys riding it. Andrew Stroud's been just so good, demonstrating this bike and racing at Daytona and all around the world. So, and Stephen Briggs. So, you know, it goes on. I don't want to start naming heaps of people, because there's a lot of people had a ride on this. Journalists and overseas riders as well have had a go. Bruce Anstey, but you know, everyone that's had anything to do with it, in my mind, is special.
Cool. Have we got
Over here?
Oh, yes. Sorry, would you mind just waiting for the mic just so that the people listening at home can hear? Thank you.
All right. How far along did they get with the 600 they were going to do after?
It was, the motor was built and dyno tested. But
so that would have been interesting. It would have been interesting to see how the 600 would have actually turned out.
And we didn't go any further with it. There was some interest in building a bike, but it would just sidetrack us from what we were doing and where the money was coming from, and that was selling these and finishing the 10. So it didn't go any further, unfortunately. But it achieved exactly what he wanted in the first set of testing, really.
So what Bob said there, that it achieved exactly what he wanted, that to me tells me that power plant was
just would have been nice to have had the time and money to carry on with the development and finish that project.
Can you imagine a V600 lightweight bike,
actually,
John Britten?
It's one of those things that's been...
It would have been absolutely amazing. I think
it
was a great live cut shot.
Finished. Yeah.
Right at the start, you had a wee story about the engineer with all the weight saving on the bolt coming along, telling you to be careful with the paint.
Yeah.
How much weight to the bike does the paint add?
Well, I just did say that if you got a quart of paint and felt the weight of it, I mean, an engineer would spend a lot of time machining off the metal for the same sort of weight, getting that weight off. And his reason for saying that to me was he spent probably days and having a lot of faith in what he was doing, because they wasted a lot of those bolts away to get rid of weight. He was getting across to me that you're adding weight, so don't put too much on. But a quart of paint, I don't know what it would weigh, but I think a litre would be a kilo. Would that be correct?
So if you think about a hex head bolt that's maybe sitting in an engine, and there's maybe 12 of them, and the hex head's got a flat top on it, what the engineers will do is they'll machine out like a dome or a cup within the top of the hex head, which is like a weight reduction. And it doesn't affect because what they'll do is they'll test it and test it and test it. So they'll know what the tensile strength is and the tensile braking strength of that bolt is. And what they'll do is they'll keep machining and keep machining and keep machining. And the very minute and second that they get a difference in the tensile braking strength, that's when they stop and they'll wind back a wee bit.
I think we've probably got time for one more question. If there's one
that's
more
where they'll
question
sit when it comes to the lightness of the components. They want them to be as light as they can without it affecting the mechanical properties.
Thank you so much again to Craig and Bob. I've certainly learned a lot tonight, and I know that you will have as well. I think what strikes me hearing them talk is just what a community of people there are that wrap around these bikes, the riders and the other owners and the mechanics and the painters and all of the people that have made this bike so special and continue to care for it. And we're really honoured to be a part of that community and to have Bob and Craig alongside us to give us their expertise. So it's been such a pleasure having them here and to be able to welcome you this evening for this talk. Do remember that it is online, so you'll be able to watch it back. And I know I will be doing that and taking notes because I'm the curator. That's just what we do. But thank you so much for coming. I know you would love to come up and have a closer look. Unfortunately, because of the number of people here, we will have to ask that you not come up onto the stage for the safety of the bike. But hopefully with the close-up shots, you've been able to see some of those details. Thank you so much for coming. Please join me again in thanking our speakers, Craig and Bob.
Thank you for coming, guys and ladies. I appreciate it very much. And let's keep living the dream.
Right. So that's it. That is the Britten. I'm just going to.
Just totally unique, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Honestly, that's what drew me to it the first time I ever saw it. I'm just going to remove the that part from the stream. Get back onto us. Mark, thanks for helping me out there and sharing that. It was just at the end there, mate. So I just took it off the share there to the stream, but I appreciate you sharing that up. I don't know what happened my end. That was strange because it was working perfect earlier on. So who knows? But anyway, yeah, I totally agree with you. It was totally unique, a total different way of thinking. And one of the things that actually brought me to was Andy's GS, the front end, the way the suspension works.
Aye.
Just like that, it's like a different take on the norm, and it's like you might go, I don't like that. That would freak me out. And then you ride it, and then you apply the brakes, and the front end doesn't dip, and you're like, oh wait a wee minute, that's actually quite good because the bike stays stable when I'm braking into a corner and so on and so forth. So
the only downside to that is that when you go back onto a bike that doesn't have it.
Yeah,
and then you fire on those brakes in a bend and you end up in the ditch.
It's even like when I'm taking the ZX9 out now, it's like I'm wanting to take the front end off it and take it somewhere and get them to have a look at it, because I feel as if the front end wants to fall right into the road every time I press the brakes. It's not soft. It's just not as it's not as progressive as the big bike, and it's maybe just the technology. I'm maybe having to put progressive springs on it or something like that. I don't know. I haven't even looked into it yet. But
you'd look at the back, because sometimes the back's out.
The back is needing serviced. There's no doubt about that. The back needs serviced, but it probably won't be me that's doing it, because I'll be doing just enough to get it through an MOT. I think that's where that's going.
Aye, you're going to lose on it though. You know, you've spent a bit on it.
See, to be quite honest, I've not spent that much. A new battery. I've bought wiring loom tape. I've bought 5 litres of paint thinners to clean out the frame. What else? A lot of it I actually got with the bike. What else? I bought new brake levers. That's what I did. That came with the master cylinders and stuff like that. So I think in total it's about £250 to £300 that I've spent on it.
Do you think that when you bought that, the ZX9R, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
9R, do you think that's the reason why you've kind of went kind of quiet and not wanting to get in the bike? And
No.
You just not been feeling it?
No.
No.
Just haven't been feeling
I've got one for you, but the Wildbad 2023 dates have been
right.
set.
Okay, you need to message me then.
Yep.
You
We'll
need to
do that.
message me so as I
It's
can.
in a different location as well, by the way.
Right, okay.
I think it's someone near Scunthorpe, because I'm pretty sure. Did you watch the video where he came off?
No.
He's no, the last one. He puts a video at 8 o'clock every Sunday. No Sunday there. The Sunday before, he said he was on his way to somewhere, and he just gave a couple of hints that it might have been to do with WW23, and then he went over the Scunthorpe Bridge, which is on the east coast, and then he came off. He went on some wet grass and basically lost the front end and came off it. So I think he was testing some off-roady stuff.
Okay.
And then when you seen this wee preview that he done, where he did some drone footage and he did looked like some track stuff, it all kind of ties in. I still think it's going to be a similar area or similar distance, Mark, but I just think it is going to be a different venue.
There's a big lake in the middle of it.
Yeah. That's it. Are you bringing your fishing rod?
No, mate, I'm getting my pole out.
That's it. Nice one.
It should be fun. It should be fun. Hopefully you can get it booked, Zed. It's definitely the trip down was immense, but even though it was difficult for me, but it was all right for Mr. Adventure there. So
it'll be better next. It'll be better next time. So I'll not be doing Kalimoto. I'll actually be doing a route. So don't worry, it'll be much better. Yeah, it's Friday the 28th of July. Friday 28th and 29th.
Right,
so
okay. Back
Friday
up Sunday.
28th. Yep.
So it's only a weekend for you, Zed. A couple of days.
What we did the last time, Zed, is we did the Thursday. I think it's better. See if you make if you can.
Aye. So yeah.
So we left the Thursday morning, and the good thing about it is you can be as quick or as long as you want. You know you've got to sleep at the end. You've got no time frame to be there. It's the Friday that you have to be there at a certain time. So we just did the Thursday was brilliant, wasn't it, Mark? Because we just sauntered down, not a care in the world. Just it was great.
Yeah.
So
it was that bad. What was it? We were 2 hours in, and we were still at Straven. we pulled into Straven about 2.5 hours in, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Aye. And then we seen a tractor. Was that a tractor? A harvester doing extraordinary manoeuvres.
Aye, that's
well,
right.
He's never getting through there.
There was some top moments in that whole day, by the way. A lot of cussing and swearing from my side, but it was it was definitely an adventure.
So that's the 28th, did you say? Right. So I'm going to 28th of July.
Aye. If you can, I'm going to do this. We're going to do the same as this year and go doing on the 27th. So that would be the Thursday. Okay. But if you can't make it and you just meet us there.
Yeah. No, it's like we've just been told that we're getting a new general manager in the factory, and it may be that we're going to, because like the way it's bloody strange. I need to book my holidays, and it has to be in 1 week blocks. I can't say, can I get Thursday, Friday off? They won't allow it. It's like it's either 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or you get the solid 2 weeks at Christmas. So on the 28th of October this month, we get a new general manager. So I'm hoping that he's a wee bit, and I know that he is, because the extension that we've just had built in the factory, it was Alan, who's going to be the new general manager, that was in control of it, and we've been working directly under him for the last 9 months, and he knows 100% that no matter what he's asked in that 9 months, we've done it. And the Haggis Whisperer, who's now obviously come on to YouTube, that's my boss, Graham. So Graham's like I've given him quite a lot of sort of hints and tips on cameras, purple panda mics and so on and so forth. It's quite strange, you know. It's like he comes down, and I'm thinking it's going to be work, and he's like, What's the microphone you've got on your GoPro? I'm like, right, okay, we're vlogging here, right? Okay, right, Graham, this is what I've got, blah blah blah. So I'm hoping that there's going to be like a wee bit more flexibility, which will be better for me, because like it's just it's a nightmare. It's like there's so much that I've wanted to do that year there that I've just not done, for the simple fact that I can't get the time when I need the time. I've also made a conscientious decision for next year, which will probably surprise not the biking community, but will surprise everyone else. I'm not bowling next year.
All right.
Which is a massive thing for me, because my bowling season is at the same time as the biking season. So I've decided I'm not bowling outdoors at all. I'm bowling indoors. I'll bowl during the winter, and that'll be me until next winter. I'm taking next year to myself, and I'm going to ride my bike. And at the end of the year, I'm going to make a decision as to whether I'm going to continue riding a bike or whether I'm not. So that's where I am right at this minute.
Right. So you're saying the end of this year or the end of next year? You're going
For
to decide
the end of next year, the end of this year is almost upon us. If I was to decide just now, I know what the answer would be, but I'm going to give it another year, because I honestly don't feel as if I put enough into it, because I've been far too busy with all my commitments with regards to bowling. So I'm going to just basically eliminate that from the equation altogether. So when it comes to the weekend, I'm not playing in competitions. I'm not representing any clubs, or I'm not having to do any official duties. And it's just basically, right, I'm going out. I've got my bike, and that's where I'm going, and see how the year takes me.
Yeah. You probably just need to get inspired a wee bit and be out. And it's you know what, it's one thing saying next year if you decide you don't want a bike again and you decide that you're going to sell your bikes on, I guarantee you that January you'll be on eBay looking at bikes.
No, I'm as I say, I'm holding off just now. You're well aware of what I'm looking at when it comes to bikes, and I went as far as having a valuation done on the ZZR. It wasn't the right valuation that I wanted, so that was kicked squarely into touch, because it was half the value of what you can buy one for just now. So that won't be happening, as much as they phone me. But I've probably sort of fell into maybe one or two bikes that I think could maybe stimulate me a wee bit. One of the big things for me was when I was going out, the type of riding that my bike encourages you to do, I don't like. Which is a strange thing to say. It's a high performance bike, but it encourages anyone that's sitting beside you at a traffic light to take off just that wee bit faster, and encourage you to do things that probably you shouldn't be doing. I can't be bothered with it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm too old for it. I don't want to go to jail because a 21-year-old wants to prove that he's got a bigger willy than me. If you understand what I mean. I just don't want to do it anymore. I just want to blend back into the canvas of the world and just get on with what I want to do, as opposed to this massive cockfight of I'm faster than you and blah blah. I can't be bothered with it anymore. I just can't.
I did probably polar opposite. Problem was that I wanted to tour more and all the rest of it without giving away. It's the worst kept secret anyway. By the time I get to produce the video, well, the video's produced. It's getting through the rest of the content first. I was wanting to do it, and I was doing it more often, and I was flinging it more into a corner, and I was doing some stuff that I shouldn't be doing, like everybody else. And then we done the Wild Bad weekend, and for me that was it, because that hurt me. It hurt me quite a lot, actually. And that consequence of what it done to me on that trip reared its ugly head at the end of the Sky trip, because we were going to go and do Duke's Pass, and I just wasn't fit for it. I had to go home. And that's what I did at the Welly. I just straightforward, straight road all the way home. But because of what I was doing and what I was thinking and what I wanted to do, the Wild Bad weekend kind of brought that out in me, which led to me buying what I've got, which is still to be revealed.
Yeah.
But you'll know what it is, but it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for me. And the fact that I can do all the stuff that I wanted to do. So I can go out for the day. It doesn't matter whether it's raining. It doesn't matter what's happening. As long as there's no snowing, with waterproofs and panniers and everything else that can go away, I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And we proved that in Sky, because Saturday was torrential in bits. No, it was really torrential, and not one of us cared, because we all had waterproofs on, apart from wee Grant, who we all felt sorry for. He was in jeans, and to be honest, he was cold. He was a wreck, wasn't he? He was a wreck on Saturday.
He was.
And that's purely because he never brought waterproofs down, because he couldn't get them in his bag. He had waterproofs, but he didn't bring them.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking in the same direction, I don't know if you are. I think you are.
Yeah,
I think that's
100%. 100% I am. And what I was looking at was along the line of Andy, just younger. Not the 1250 either, but
no.
Yeah. The 1250 is someone else. Those
It's
just
just
timing thing that goes on. It's supposed to be a really
it's pre that. It's still got the analog clocks and stuff like that, but full panniers and official sort of panniers and whatever, plus the bike, and plus 22,000 miles, you're probably getting for about 5.5. That's a lot of bike for 5.5 grand.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of bike.
Well, I picked up my new one for 5.
Pardon me.
And once it's out there, it's out there. But no, I got it with 9,000 miles, one owner.
Yeah.
Full service history. It's in absolute mint condition with everything that goes with it. And I've already gave away. It's an adventure bike, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's been lowered with Triumph. Oh, Triumph there. I have gave it away now. And I can flat foot it.
Yeah.
So I'm completely happy.
Yep. So, see, getting back to what you were saying about because we had quite a lot of rain on the Saturday, and maybe not quite as bad on the Sunday. But I would say on the Saturday we were probably just chilling a bit.
Mm-hmm.
On the Sunday we were probably pushing a bit, especially for the castle. I would say we were. But you know what, the AT for me, that's the only bike that I've ever ridden, I think, where I don't feel any different in the rain to I do in the dry.
Yeah.
The traction just seems to be just as good. And it's that way where you're like, I don't really want to push it, but I feel like I could get the knee down in the way. That's the way you feel when you're on it.
Actually, I'm not sure whether that's the riding position. I'm not sure whether it's because it's slightly higher. But the ZRX was a wee bit like that as well. It's like I could push the ZRX harder than I could push like like the likes of the 1400. And probably when you look at weight wise, the ZRX was maybe only about 30, 40, 50 maybe at maximum kilos lighter than the 1400. Yeah, it felt as if you could just flick it into corners and it was always going to be underneath you.
What you've got said, but as people, the stuff, when I passed and I done my DAS and obviously got my full license, right, the Friday night madness was still going on. It was still getting posted on YouTube. Could see you on your bike. We could see the trips you've done. I know it's not there anymore, but you were pushing it on, No, I mean there was some really kind of, I wouldn't say mental. There was some fast stuff going on, but that stuff's not available now, and people might not know that about you, but when that bike was built for you. To be honest, it was built for you.
Aye, that's it. I don't know. I think we just get a wee bit older, and maybe we do want to just kind of
Wee
take
bit
it a bit easier.
wiser.
And I think that's what it is, Mark. We get wiser.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to arrive with my arse and tatters. That's
aye.
If that
Never
happens
done.
at the hostel or the hotel, that's another story altogether.
Exactly.
Not while I'm riding my bike.
See, the great thing about an adventure bike is see if you miss a bend and you hit the bush, you just bounce over it.
That's generally how I feel, by the way. It doesn't matter what's there. You'll just go over the top of it. It's fine. It's just you're sitting so high. You can see absolutely everything. You can see, if Glencoe, for example, there's a couple of bends and all the rest of it, and as you're approaching the bends and there's somebody in front of you, you can see like half a mile away that the road's completely clear.
I've actually, like last night, I'm in the process of everything that I've ever recorded on my cameras. I'm deleting. Might sound strange to some, not to me, because what I'm doing is I'm uploading everything I've recorded ever onto YouTube, and I'm saving it on a file for all my sort of vlogs. But any sort of raw footage that I've got, I'm deleting to make way for everything that comes in the future, because obviously it just ends up cluttering up your computer. You end up with terabytes of memory space lost that you're never going to gain back. You'll promise yourself that you'll make some sort of edit out of it that you never do, so it's better off just disappearing, and I'm happy with what I've got on my channel. And I was watching back my Glencoe footage when I had the ZRX and I was riding through, and I'm like, oh man, that was
an awesome video, mate. I said that to you before. Yeah,
I so need to get back there. That's just absolutely phenomenal.
But
two of the boys are Alexander goes to the unit 23 down in Dumbarton, does the scooter riding, and they've got off-road bikes, and they're telling me about quite a lot of sort of forest tracks just up beyond Inverary, and you can basically go up the forest roads which are cut into the side of the hills for the forest lorries to go up and take the timber down. But in the winter, obviously they're not doing that. They're not felling at that time, so they're open and they're accessible. And I'm thinking to myself, now that's a thing that we need to start exploring, because it will take you into sort of uncharted territory for the kind of sort of bikes that we're used to riding in that respect.
We did a wee bit of that. We're going through Glencoe. We'd actually just passed the ski centre, and I was thinking about going up the ski centre, and I had a look. The thing is, you can see the road, and the road does look a wee bit rough going up to the ski centre, and I didn't want to pull everybody onto that road. I mean, a couple of us might have adventure bikes, but you don't want to take folk on that road, if they're their comfort zone. So we went further on a wee bit, and I seen a wee A road going off to the left, and I thought, I'll just take this. And I'd never been on it. Nani's had been on it before.
Yeah.
And we went along this wee track, and we ended up, it took us right through the middle of the hills. It was awesome. It was just like we were just carving our way through, and it was just typical A roads with passing places, B roads with passing places. It was fine.
Yeah.
We get a wee bit of gravel at places, but it was all right. And then we pulled into a lay-by, and I was like that. I think I'd say to you, Mark, I'm having that road. and it was one of the forest roads that you're talking about, where it's all just gravel.
Yeah.
It's made up of just gravel.
Not even shale and whatever.
Aye, that's all it was made up of. And you could see it just went up and along and then disappeared.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to take it, you're going to do it. And Mark had just got the bike. He didn't feel confident to do it, which was fine. we Grant said, I'll do it. He did it his MT-07.
Brilliant, man.
But
he just made up that hill, by the way.
But it's all about momentum.
Yeah.
If you go really slow, the bike slides and shakes about.
Yeah.
But see if you just drop it a couple of gears and open it up within reason.
Staying
You'll just
relaxed
glide.
on the bike
You
as
just
well.
glide. You just glide. And
Yeah.
I had the time of my life. I mean, I didn't go far. I only went a couple of miles. But I looked back and the guys were like ants in the distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need to get back. And I couldn't
Look-
see Grant.
Remember when Todger and that was up? Did they do the road coming through towards Glencoe that was using Skyfall? Was it them that did that? Or was that,
Aye.
that
No, I think
someone
it was
else?
them.
Was it
They
them,
were-
them that did it?
I think it was because they stayed in Glencoe.
Aye. It
For a
was like
night,
a
I'm
campsite
sure.
or something like that they stayed in, and then I can remember
Aye.
the episode that they did, and they were like, it wasn't the main road because I've ever come into Glencoe, I've come up Oban heading towards Crane Layrick and come in that way towards Glencoe. That's the route I've done. It's like I went to Inverary and then Oban and then Oban up Crane Layrick and then come back that way. That's always the way that I've hit Glencoe. I've never come in at it from the other side up when you're heading off Tyndrum, instead of turning left to the Domali Pass, take the right and it goes up the Rannoch Moor and whatever. I've never done it that way. I've always done it coming the other way. But he was up that way, but he was on it. I could see the road that I was on, but he was like in a road that was halfway between the mountains and where I knew where the road was. And I'm like, I want that road. That road looked brilliant.
See, I think that's the thing, because if you always seem to you'll stay on the beaten track if you want a nice, fast, bendy road.
Yeah.
But when you change bikes and if you are into the adventure bike, you can go fast if you want to go fast, but you're not looking for fast sweeping bends. You're looking for where does that go? And the beauty of the adventure bike is you can take really bumpy, gravelly B roads and be quite comfortable.
Yep.
And you just seem to go and go. You just seem to float over them, over the bends. You know, it's enjoyable, and it takes you out. You go to places where you'd never thought of seeing. Something you would never take a sports bike. You'd never take a sports bike along that road, but you would definitely take an adventure bike on it. And where we stopped, Mark, I'd love to just carry on and see where that went.
I've prepared something for you, Zed. Can you share that screen? This is what I found outside Straven, mate. This is what I was talking to you about the other night.
Pardon, Tube?
If you share that screen, mate. You ever heard of them?
No. One Day Pass off road.
It's just outside Straven.
All right.
And forget about the quads. There's plenty there for a bike. And you book the day, you go up, and you just jump on it.
Right, is it their bikes you're using, or is it you bring your own?
No, it's your own. No, you
Okay,
just book.
okay.
It's a 256 acre.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome, mate.
With you've got there's some mental videos, by the way, on YouTube, as you would expect.
There's
and it's Drum Clog.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about.
I need to look at that. There's one just beyond Barhead as well, and it's like a lot of the trial bike community. They use that as well. I think it's a farm. Can't for the life of me remember. My mate that I used to work with in Coatbridge, he's used it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's similar. I think it allows you to use off-road bikes on it as well.
There's a couple of videos on YouTube. Obviously, people are posting their own videos. It's no for actually them, but see if you go into it, you've got hills that go that way. You've got loose gravel, you've got mud, you've got water, you've got a normal trail.
Yeah.
Just to get you started, and that's what I'm wanting to do this month.
Robert, that's what I was talking about when we were sitting in your car when we were heading. Is like the fact of having like that type of bike is that's the type of thing. It's like because not only you would learn the bike, but you would also hone your skills as well. Feeling the bike moving underneath you, understanding what the bike's doing, and so on and so forth. But if there's a group of you going to do it, it means that if anything does happen, that you drop the bike, you're not standing trying to pick up a 200 odd kilo bike yourself. You know, it's like everyone's there to sort of laugh at you, poke fun at you, and then help you with your bike when you pick it back up.
Aye, help you lift it. You know, and that is the thing. You did. I think being part of if you're part of the kind of Africa Twin Facebook group and folk are saying, "Oh, I dropped my bike for the first time today. I need a new panel for it, whatever," and folk are saying, "Why? It's an adventure bike. It's supposed to be scratched and scathed, and you know,
buy a new panel when you want to sell it."
Aye, well, that's it. Aye, you know. But no, that sounds good, Mark. That I would say more. The only thing I worry about with the tyres I've got, and I don't know if you're the same, but it's the 80/20 tyres I've got, and I think they're good for gravel and.
Mate, we'll just trap the bikes everywhere. It doesn't matter.
Aye,
that's what they're built for.
Good telly.
Second set of wheels.
That's it.
We'll just toss onto it, mate, and just no matter. Broken limbs.
The guy I was talking about that's going to be my general manager, he's just bought a brand new Land Rover Disco, and he just took order of mud tyres, and he's doing off-roading. He's bought this, and he's like, he used to do off-roading, and that's what he's doing. So I've just put his 4 road tyres in the warehouse. I've stored them. He's like, I'll be riding in the mud for the whole winter. So that's
the biggest attraction that place gets that I just showed you was Land Rovers, believe it or not.
Naked camping.
Aye, mate. There's camping as well, aye. Be good.
Excellent.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll tell you one thing I did notice with AT. I was watching it the other day there, and I was like, you know, usually your front tyre is, you replace that every 2 times. You would tend to replace your back tyre and then maybe your front tyre the second time. You know, and do get your pair. I've noticed that my front tyre, I mean, my bike's only done 4,500 miles.
Yeah.
My front tyre, the sidewall is almost on the indicator, you know, and I think that is obviously just the characteristics of an adventure bike, the way that it moves in corners and stuff.
No, mate, blame Graham's and he'll get you a new tyre.
You think the width of the adventure tyre is obviously going to be slightly narrower as well than the road tyres. So
it's 21-inch wheel as well.
So
you look at the back of tyre, it's like that.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know, with big panniers on the back.
I know.
No, but my whole thing is like, if I can get the 2 bikes to a position that I can turn 2 into 1 without it costing me any money, then that's what's going to happen.
I think we all kind of know where you're going, but it would be good to see you.
See, the thing is, mate, see when you put everything, when you kind of pack yourself up and you're on the left with a tent going along the back of your bike,
I know.
and you can go anywhere.
See the thing about it is see, when I bought the 1400, it came with the full give-away pannier set. Everything. It came with everything. Hard luggage, because I actually met the guy who owned the bike and he had everything, and I bought all the carbon fibre off him as well.
Yeah.
After I purchased the bike from AMR Motorcycles in Renfrew, and I went to see him. Can't for the life of me think of where it was. It was out Ayrshire way, that he stayed. And I actually passed by it to go to the Basic Bikers weekend. It's just before Maidens. Can't remember. It begins with is it a D or a B? I can't remember.
Heads of Year.
No. It's a very short. It's a short name. I can't remember the name of it. But it's like see the road, the road that you head down towards like heads of air. It's like you take a left off it, and then it's like you're through like a wee sort of forest. It's like forestry roads either side of it, and you're into that tiny wee village, and he stays in there, and then you can basically just jump back on. So it's as if the road that you ride's like a bypass. I can't remember. I'll need it'll come back to me, but he stays in there, and he bought the Gen 2 and he sold the Gen 1, but he had all the Gen 1 luggage, and I was like, I love the look of the bike and I love the shape of the bike, and then I'm like, I don't fancy having the luggage on it, but the practicality of the luggage as opposed to the look of it. As you well know, when I rocked up at the Basic Bikers weekend, I had a rucksack on my back, and it was fucking hell, man. It was like carrying a couple of slabs in my back. Do you know what I mean? I could have been well doing with the panniers right there and then.
Aye.
But obviously, like I had sold them by that time, so that was sort of one of the sort of wee things. I'm like, nah, the things that I want to do as opposed to the way that the bike wants to get me there.
Aye.
It's not matching anymore.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you find your interest, get your mojo back, whatever you want to call it. I've spent a lot of time the past couple of weeks messing with how I edit, what transitions I put in, and all the rest of it. And I've got one more video to go that Lockwood's already seen. I've kind of shared it when it's no live.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the bike review, but from the bike review, on the bike review going forward, I'm going 4K with everything.
Okay.
In terms of the footage, so that's, and you've got a million ideas. It's whether you can actually do something with them that makes a difference. So
it's the time as well. The time and effort is a big part of it.
You know yourself. It's like even when you've got the idea in your head, it's trying to stage it live when you're out on your bike. And like to myself, if I'm going out and I'm shooting a vlog, you can't just keep going back down the same road and shooting the same thing and shooting the same thing. I don't have that. I'm not got the luxury of that time, so you have to sort of take what you get and make the most of it. As much as I would love to find a good corner and then put a camera on that corner to catch me coming round the corner and then go back and pick the camera up and do, you can't do it. It's like so it kind of sort of limits sort of what you want to do, but sometimes it's the effort and energy you put in that you get back out again. So maybe you're going down the right track. I mean, I post all my stuff now at 2.7 K. So I mean, like it comes out as HD, but 4K might be the. It'll definitely look far better. It'll be far smoother, especially once YouTube's had their hands on it.
Aye, it's whether people click on it, whatever the standard YouTube settings are, that's where it'll play it. So
see, to be quite honest, if I was clicking it on my mobile phone standard, it's only going to show it at 480. Aye. I have to go on and tell it I want to see it at 4K. My computer does exactly the same. It's just a default that YouTube have got, because what they're trying to do is guarantee that everyone will be able to see it.
I shot everything in Sky in 4K, so that I'd already kind of planted in my head that I was going to go doing this route of doing it.
You might even find that when YouTube upscales it, it never gets close to 4K.
I know.
Aye, it doesn't.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't. But you do look at some vloggers, some of the big vloggers, and they'll put it on at 1080 and it's crystal clear. And I think a lot of it's just down to how they do it. You know, and maybe with the software they use for editing. I don't know.
Yeah, I still use Vegas Pro 17. I've not moved on for that. It's so easy to use, and I'm so used to it now. I've been using it for 4 years. So
channel size as well. I think channel size increases your bandwidth. I firmly believe that. So, like when you're uploading something, it allows you to they'll take on a higher quality video from you because they know that they're going to get the views off it. Like we Z-Head Motovlogs with 400 subs, they're going to give me next to nothing. So if I'm 1080, it's probably more than enough.
Aye.
But I do it at 2.7 anyway. That's just what I upload at, which gives me HD when it finally sort of renders, finishes rendering.
It gives you the VP9 codec.
Yeah,
You're on 2.7. Yeah.
You did the same, didn't you? Lockwood 2.7.
2.7. I've changed it a wee bit though. I've went to PAL and reduced the megahertz because what I was finding when I'm on the AT is the LCD flickers.
Yeah.
But if I go down to 50 hertz,
it takes it out. Yeah.
Aye, it takes it out, but it means that it changes your frame limit as well.
Yeah.
So I have to go from, I think I can go up to 50 frames. I can't go 60 because I'm run at a lower frequency. But
Yeah.
it takes that flicker out, and it seems to be fine at that. One thing was that my media mod has packed in.
Oof.
So yeah, and I think that was the rain on the Sky weekend that's fucked that up. So basically, I'm back to just using my. I'm at a crossroads. I'm either going to keep using the wee adapter, the mic adapter for the GoPro, or I'm just going to get a Tascam and just separate the audio.
Yeah.
Because I'm just fed up with crappy, shitty audio or no audio. You know? Aye. Yep. Yep.
What I've got one of them, and I've got.
How you going to that? Right.
Yeah, everything.
Do you want that to hang in your wall?
Nail it. But I've also considered, and I don't know if any of you have considered it, and that's logging out of YouTube UK and switching the VPN on my computer and logging on to YouTube US and then uploading a video and seeing how it does. Because if I'm uploading US side because the computer thinks that I'm in the US, whether that will put me onto the other side of the water, I don't know. I kind of think that it might, because obviously we are sitting on the UK YouTube format, because our computers, when we switch them on, are telling the computer that that's where we are.
Aye.
Yeah. Maybe there might be something in it.
I might give that. That's a good idea, actually. I might give that a go.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. Just like a random video, just fire it up there and see what kind of reaction that you get from it. For it being VPN and you've put your IP address as US stateside. I think that's possibly a way to go, because you're always going to pick up UK subscribers anyway. The hard thing is picking up the American side of YouTube,
when they're recommending your video, they're recommending it to UK, no America.
Yeah. Firstly,
that could be a valid point. That could be a valid point, actually.
I'm not saying every video, but maybe just like every once in a while, fire one up. Even if you're putting it onto the UK, fire it up on the US side at the same time. So you're posting two videos at the same time. And see how the two of them compare.
Yeah.
Even if you're deleting it at a later date, it doesn't matter. But it gives you a reference. It gives you some sort of idea of what the difference is. Because obviously, look at your market over there, and look at your audience levels over there as opposed to the UK.
See, I think just fucking riding your bike naked or something is probably gonna. I think that's what you need to do, mate.
Oh dear.
You know what I mean?
That's probably right. Aye.
Get the beef and two veg out. You know, I think that would. And then, that's when you want your tripod sitting on the corner.
Oh, God. That guy's got a small tank bag.
What is it? Everybody says the best video you'll make is having your camera on when a motor pulls out in front of you and you slam into the side there.
Oh,
yeah, that's...
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that's...
But we don't want to get there.
No, absolutely not. Wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No, so
But anyway, I'm going to head off into the sunset.
Sunset,
I really
no bother, mate.
appreciate
Same.
you all coming on. I hope you enjoyed your little venture into Britain. I hope everyone that is watching, enjoyed the Britain sort of documentary along with me. Maybe follow a wee bit of the passion, maybe look into it a wee bit further. Explore John Britten for yourself and see what other things that the guy did other than build an absolutely phenomenal world record, world beating motorbike that made the motorbike industry stand up and pay attention to what was possible in the motorbiking world. And he also brought together an absolutely fantastic bunch of people that were working on it and created a remarkable community that I'm a fanboy of and I like. So thank you very much from me, Zhead. I appreciate Lockwood92 coming on. Robert, thank you very much. Mark Ayrshire Vlogster, thanks very much, pal, for coming on and sharing the experience with me.
Yep.
And also for sharing the video with proper audio, because I don't know what happened. But them's the breaks. But for everyone watching, take care and stay safe. All the best, everyone. Take care.
Cheers later. Cheers.